It all began on a quiet Tuesday morning, the kind of day that seemed destined to fade into obscurity. The sun rose lazily over the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink. People went about their routines, children heading to school, office workers rushing to catch buses, and farmers tending to their fields. No one could have guessed that this ordinary day would mark the beginning of an extraordinary chapter in human history. At the Jodrell Bank Observatory in England, astronomers were hard at work monitoring the night sky. Their telescopes scanned distant galaxies, searching for anything unusual. For decades, humanity had dreamed of finding evidence of intelligent life beyond Earth. Some imagined friendly aliens arriving with gifts of advanced technology. Others feared hostile invaders bent on conquest, but no one expected what happened next. Dr. Sarah Bennett, a young astrophysicist known for her sharp mind and relentless curiosity, was reviewing data from one of the observatory's most powerful instruments when she noticed something strange. A sudden spike in energy readings near Jupiter caught her attention. At first she thought it might be interference from the sun or perhaps a malfunctioning sensor. She double-checked her calculations, but the numbers didn't lie. Something massive was out there, and it wasn't behaving like any natural phenomenon she'd ever seen. "Hey, Tom," Sarah called out to her colleague, Dr. Tom Reynolds, who was seated nearby. "Take a look at this. Do you see what I'm seeing?" Tom adjusted his glasses and leaned closer to the monitor, his brow furrowed as he studied the data. "That's odd," he muttered. "It's moving too fast to be an asteroid, and its trajectory doesn't match any comet we've tracked." The two scientists exchanged uneasy glances. Whatever it was big, far bigger than anything they'd encountered before. Over the next few hours, more anomalies appeared in the data. By mid-morning, it became clear that multiple objects were approaching Earth. They weren't random chunks of rock or ice. These were structured formations, each emitting faint but detectable energy signatures. Word spread quickly within the scientific community. Observatories around the world trained their telescopes on the mysterious fleet, confirming Sarah and Tom's findings. Social media exploded with speculation. Was it aliens? A secret government experiment gone wrong? Or maybe some bizarre cosmic event? Conspiracy theories multiplied faster than anyone could debunk them. By late afternoon, the truth started to emerge. High-resolution images captured by space-based telescopes revealed the source of the disturbance. A fleet of colossal ships unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Each vessel stretched hundreds of kilometers long, dwarfing even the largest aircraft carriers. Their sleek metallic surfaces gleamed under the light of the distant sun, reflecting hues of silver and gold. They looked less like machines and more like celestial cathedrals, crafted by beings far superior to humans. Governments scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were convened in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and other capitals. Military commanders debated whether to launch preemptive strikes while diplomats urged caution. Meanwhile, ordinary people watched in awe and terror as news outlets broadcast live footage of the alien armada. Parents hugged their children tighter. Friends called loved ones to share whispered fears. Prayers filled churches, mosques, and temples as humanity grappled with the possibility of extinction. Then came the message. Just as the world braced itself for the worst, every communication channel on Earth, televisions, radios, phones, even car stereos, was hijacked by a single voice. It spoke in flawless English, calm yet commanding, sending chills down spines everywhere. "We are the arbiters of existence," the voice declared. "Your species has been deemed unworthy of survival. Your actions endanger not only your own planet but the delicate balance of the cosmos. You consume without restraint, pollute without remorse, and destroy without consideration. We exist to eliminate threats such as yours. Surrender now or face annihilation." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving behind stunned silence. Billions of people sat frozen, trying to process what they had just heard. Were these beings gods? Invaders? Saviors? No one knew for sure, but one thing was certain. Humanity's time was running out. In the days that followed, panic gripped the globe. Supermarkets were raided, banks closed, and streets emptied as people prepared for the end. Yet amidst the chaos, hope flickered in unexpected places. Scientists worked tirelessly to analyze the alien technology, searching for weaknesses. Engineers repurposed old satellites into makeshift weapons. Hackers attempted to infiltrate the invaders' systems, hoping to buy humanity more time. Even ordinary citizens found ways to contribute, volunteering at shelters, donating supplies, and comforting those in need. But not everyone believed surrender was inevitable. Among the skeptics was Captain James Carter, a decorated fighter pilot stationed at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Known for his quick thinking and fearless demeanor, Carter refused to accept defeat. He gathered a small team of pilots and technicians, determined to devise a plan to fight back. "They may have better tech," he told his crew during a clandestine meeting, "but they don't know us. They don't understand our will to survive." Carter's words resonated with many. Across the globe, resistance movements sprang up, fueled by a shared determination to protect Earth. While governments debated how to proceed, ordinary people took matters into their own hands. Farmers converted tractors into armored vehicles. Teachers taught self-defense classes. Artists painted murals of defiance, reminding everyone that humanity's spirit couldn't be crushed. As the days passed, the alien fleet remained eerily still, hovering silently above Earth's orbit. Some speculated they were giving humanity time to reflect on its fate. Others feared they were simply waiting for reinforcements. Whatever the reason, the delay gave humanity a precious opportunity to prepare for battle, for negotiation, or for whatever lay ahead. And so, as the world teetered on the brink of disaster, stories of courage and resilience emerged. Strangers helped strangers. Families reunited. Communities came together in ways never thought possible. Humanity faced its darkest hour, but in doing so, it discovered a strength it didn't know it possessed. For now, the question remained unanswered. Would humanity rise to meet the challenge, or would it crumble under the weight of its own insignificance? Only time would tell. But one thing was clear. The arrival of the Arbiters had changed everything, and nothing would ever be the same again. The alien fleet loomed above Earth like a storm cloud, casting a shadow not just over the planet but over humanity's collective psyche. Days had passed since the Arbiters' chilling message, and though the invaders hadn't attacked yet, their presence was suffocating. Every sunrise felt like it could be the last. People clung to hope, but fear gnawed at their resolve. Governments around the world were scrambling to respond, but unity wasn't coming easily. At first, chaos reigned. Some nations wanted to launch nuclear missiles at the fleet, hoping to show defiance even if it meant certain doom. Others advocated for diplomacy, believing that surrender might spare humanity from extinction. Military commanders argued with politicians, while scientists debated strategies in cramped conference rooms. The lack of coordination made humanity look weaker than ever, fracturing any chance of presenting a united front. Amidst this turmoil stood Dr. Elena Morales, a woman whose brilliance and determination had earned her respect across the globe. Elena was no stranger to high-stakes situations. She'd spent years studying exoplanets and searching for signs of extraterrestrial life. But nothing could have prepared her for this moment. As images of the alien ships flooded news channels and social media, Elena knew humanity couldn't afford to fight amongst itself. If they did, it would be game over before the battle even began. Elena called an emergency meeting at the United Nations headquarters in New York City. Representatives from nearly every country gathered in the General Assembly Hall, their faces etched with exhaustion and dread. The room buzzed with tension as leaders argued about how to proceed. "We can't just sit here and do nothing," shouted one delegate, slamming his fist on the table. "If we don't strike back, they'll see us as weak." "Striking back is suicide," countered another. "Look at those ships, they're bigger than our cities. What exactly are we supposed to hit them with? Spitballs?" Elena stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. She carried herself with quiet authority, her dark eyes scanning the room. "Listen to yourselves," she said firmly. "Fighting each other won't save us. If we want to survive, we need to work together, not as Americans, Chinese, Russians, or Indians, but as humans. Her words struck a chord. Slowly, the arguing subsided, and the delegates turned to face her. Elena continued, pacing slowly as she spoke. These beings, these arbiters, they've declared us unworthy. They think we're incapable of change, that we're too selfish and destructive to deserve a place in the universe. But what if we prove them wrong? What if we show them that humanity is more than the sum of its flaws? Her speech ignited a spark of hope in the room. For the first time since the alien fleet arrived, people started talking about solutions instead of blame. After hours of heated discussion, the Global Defense Initiative, GDI, was formed, a coalition of nations pooling resources, expertise, and manpower to defend Earth. It was a monumental achievement, a testament to humanity's ability to unite in the face of annihilation. But unity came at a cost. Not everyone agreed with Elena's vision. Among the skeptics was General Marcus Hale, a grizzled war veteran who had seen decades of conflict. With his weathered face and steely gaze, Hale commanded respect wherever he went. He believed in strength, discipline, and decisive action. To him, Elena's talk of cooperation sounded naive. Hale cornered Elena after the meeting, his arms crossed and his jaw tight. "You really think sitting around holding hands is going to stop them?" he growled. "They've already judged us. Talking won't change their minds." "It's not about talking," Elena replied calmly, meeting his glare without flinching. "It's about showing them who we are. We're resourceful, adaptive, and resilient. If we stand divided, we're finished. But if we work together, we might have a fighting chance." Hale didn't look convinced, but he nodded reluctantly. "Fine, but when your plan fails, don't say I didn't warn you." Despite the cracks in the alliance, progress was made. Engineers retrofitted old satellites into rudimentary weapons platforms, equipping them with lasers and EMP devices scavenged from military stockpiles. Hackers worked tirelessly to infiltrate the alien systems, searching for vulnerabilities. Even ordinary citizens contributed, volunteering to build shelters, organize supply chains, and support frontline efforts. Humanity was mobilizing on a scale never seen before. Meanwhile, public opinion remained deeply divided. Protests erupted in major cities with crowds chanting slogans ranging from "fight back" to "peace over war." Conspiracy theories flourished online, accusing governments of hiding information or colluding with the aliens. Religious leaders preached sermons about Judgment Day, urging followers to repent for humanity's sins. Amidst the noise, one message resonated louder than the rest: we are still here. As days turned into weeks, the alien fleet remained ominously silent. Their ships hung motionless in orbit, as if waiting for something. Speculation ran rampant. Were they giving humanity time to surrender? Testing the planet's defenses? Or simply observing? Then came the breakthrough, or so it seemed. A team of cryptographers working under Elena deciphered fragments of the Arbiter's transmission, uncovering patterns embedded within the signal. These patterns suggested that the aliens communicated using a complex mathematical language. If humanity could replicate it, they might be able to establish contact or at least send a message proving their intelligence. Elena assembled a group of linguists, mathematicians, and computer programmers to tackle the problem. Working around the clock, they pieced together a response, encoding it with symbols representing humanity's achievements: art, science, philosophy, and culture. When the message was ready, Elena hesitated. Sending it felt like rolling the dice. What if the Arbiters saw it as a threat? What if they ignored it entirely? "We have to try," she told her team. "If we don't take risks, we've already lost." The message was transmitted via radio waves aimed directly at the largest alien vessel. For hours, there was no reply. Just as despair began to creep in, the fleet stirred. One of the smaller ships detached itself from the formation and descended toward Earth, its engines glowing faintly against the night sky. It landed in Central Park, sending shock waves rippling outward and shattering windows for miles. Panic gripped New York City. People fled in all directions, screaming and clutching their loved ones. Emergency services rushed to the scene, but the military quickly cordoned off the area. News helicopters circled overhead, capturing footage of the ship as it towered above the trees. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the city lights in mesmerizing patterns. From the vessel emerged three towering figures clad in gleaming armor. They moved with unnatural grace, their steps synchronized as if choreographed. Their faces were hidden behind visors that glowed faintly, making it impossible to read their expressions. Despite their humanoid shape, they radiated an aura of power and detachment, as if they belonged to a higher plane of existence. A delegation led by Elena approached cautiously, flanked by security personnel and accompanied by representatives from various nations. Heart-pounding, Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "Why have you come here?" she asked, addressing the beings directly. One of the arbiters tilted its head, studying her, with cold, unblinking eyes. Its voice echoed in everyone's minds, bypassing the need for translation. "Your kind consumes without restraint," it said. "You destroy your own planet and threaten the balance of the cosmos. We exist to eliminate such threats." Elena swallowed hard, forcing herself to remain calm. "You claim to judge us," she replied. "But do you truly understand us? Do you know what it means to struggle, to create, to dream? Before you pass sentence, I challenge you to meet us on equal terms." The arbiter paused, clearly taken aback by her boldness. Then, after what felt like an eternity, it spoke again. "Very well, prove your worth if you can." With those words, the delegation returned to their headquarters, hearts racing. Humanity had been given a chance, a slim one, but a chance nonetheless. The trials ahead would test everything they stood for: their ingenuity, their resilience, and their will to survive. And though the odds were stacked against them, one thing was certain: humanity wouldn't go down without a fight. The alien ship stood like a monolith in Central Park, its metallic surface shimmering under the pale morning light. People gathered at a safe distance, their faces filled with awe and terror as they watched the towering figures emerge from the vessel. These beings, arbiters of existence as they called themselves, were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Their armor glowed faintly, pulsating with an energy that seemed alive. They moved with precision, every step deliberate, as if they were part machine, part god. Elena Morales stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing. She had spent years studying the stars, dreaming of the day humanity would make contact with extraterrestrial life. But this wasn't the meeting she'd imagined. These weren't benevolent explorers seeking friendship. They were judges, executioners, and they viewed humanity as unworthy of existence. Yet here she was, standing face to face with them, tasked with representing all 7 billion people on Earth. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stepped forward, flanked by representatives from nations around the world. Soldiers armed with rifles kept their distance, though everyone knew bullets wouldn't stop these beings. Behind Elena, cameras clicked furiously, capturing every second of this historic and potentially final moment. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. This wasn't just about her, it was about survival, for all of humanity. "Why have you come here?" Elena asked, her voice firm despite the tremor threatening to creep in. Her question hung in the air, echoing across the park. One of the arbiters tilted its head slightly, studying her with glowing eyes hidden behind its visor. Its voice resonated not through ears but directly within minds, cold and unyielding. "We are the arbiters of existence," it said, repeating the phrase humanity had already heard over global broadcasts. "Your species consumes without restraint. You destroy your planet and threaten the balance of the cosmos. We exist to eliminate such threats." A chill ran down Elena's spine. Every word felt like a hammer striking a nail into humanity's coffin. She clenched her fists, forcing herself to focus. If she faltered now, everything would be lost. "You claim to judge us," Elena replied, her tone steady. But do you truly understand us? Do you know what it means to struggle, to create, to dream? Before you pass sentence, I challenge you to meet us on equal terms. The arbiter paused, its glowing visor tilting slightly, as if considering her words. Then, after a long silence, it spoke again. Very well. Prove your worth, if you can. Those last 4 words sent ripples of both hope and dread through the delegation. Humanity had been given a chance, a trial, but no one knew what it entailed or how they could possibly succeed. Still, Elena felt a flicker of determination ignite within her. They hadn't been destroyed outright. That alone was a victory. The trials begin. The next few days passed in a blur. The arbiters issued their first challenge, a test of ingenuity and resourcefulness. A damaged satellite, one of humanity's own, was placed in orbit above Earth, its systems crippled beyond repair. Teams of astronauts, engineers, and technicians were tasked with repairing it using only limited tools and resources. Failure meant immediate annihilation. Success offered no guarantees, but it bought time. At mission control centers around the globe, experts worked tirelessly to prepare. The chosen team included seasoned astronauts alongside young innovators who brought fresh perspectives. Among them was Dr. Raj Patel, a robotics engineer known for his work on autonomous repair drones. He had barely slept since the challenge was announced, poring over schematics and brainstorming solutions. As the countdown began, the tension was palpable. Millions watched live feeds as the team launched into space aboard a hastily retrofitted spacecraft. Inside the shuttle, Raj gripped his seat tightly, trying to calm his nerves. Beside him sat Commander Sofia Alvarez, a veteran astronaut whose calm demeanor masked the storm brewing inside her. When they reached the damaged satellite, the reality of the situation hit hard. It was worse than expected. Panels were missing, wires exposed, and critical components fried. The tools provided by the arbiters were rudimentary: wrenches, pliers, and adhesive patches designed for basic repairs. Nothing advanced enough to handle the complexity of modern satellites. "This is impossible," muttered one of the engineers, sweat dripping down his face inside his helmet. "No," Sophia snapped, her voice sharp. "It's not impossible. It's just hard, and we're going to figure it out." Under Sophia's leadership, the team divided tasks. Some focused on stabilizing the satellite's core systems, while others worked to patch up external damage. Raj deployed a small drone he'd modified during the flight, programming it to weave loose wires back into place. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by occasional bursts of communication between team members. Finally, after nearly 12 grueling hours, the satellite flickered to life. Its solar panels extended, catching the sunlight, and its communication array hummed softly. Back on Earth, cheers erupted in mission control rooms as confirmation came through. The repair was successful. The arbiters acknowledged the achievement. With a single statement broadcast globally, "You have demonstrated resourcefulness. Proceed to the next trial." A test of intellect. The second trial was even more daunting. The arbiters projected a series of complex mathematical puzzles onto Earth's atmosphere, visible across the entire planet. These patterns shifted and evolved in real time, requiring solvers to adapt quickly. Mathematicians, computer programmers, and cryptographers from around the world collaborated feverishly, working around the clock to decipher the enigmatic sequences. Dr. Mei Lin, a prodigy in theoretical mathematics, led the effort. Her office became ground zero for the operation, filled with whiteboards covered in equations and glowing laptop screens. Volunteers streamed in and out, bringing fresh ideas and insights. Despite the pressure, Mei remained laser-focused, her mind racing faster than anyone else's. "It's like they're testing our ability to think abstractly," Mei explained during a briefing. "These patterns aren't random. They're based on universal constants, prime numbers, and geometric principles. But they're also layered with variables we've never encountered before." For days, the team struggled to keep up. Sleep deprivation took its toll, but no one dared to stop. Finally, after countless iterations and breakthroughs, they cracked the code. The solution involved a combination of fractal geometry and quantum mechanics, concepts that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. When the final sequence aligned, the skies lit up briefly, as if acknowledging the accomplishment. Once again, the Arbiter's voice echoed worldwide. You have demonstrated intellect. Proceed to the final trial. Facing the Arbiter Commander, the third and final trial loomed ahead, shrouded in mystery. Rumors spread that it would involve direct confrontation with the Arbiter Commander, the largest and most imposing of the three beings. Speculation ran wild, ranging from physical combat to philosophical debates. Whatever it was, it required a single individual to represent humanity. Volunteers poured in from every corner of the globe. Soldiers, scientists, philosophers, and ordinary citizens alike stepped forward, eager to take on the responsibility. Each candidate underwent rigorous evaluations, but ultimately, the decision fell to Elena Morales. Her bravery during the initial encounter, combined with her unwavering belief in humanity's potential, made her the clear choice. On the day of the trial, Elena stood before the Arbiter Commander in a vast, empty chamber aboard the alien ship. The being towered over her, radiating an aura of divine authority. Its presence was overwhelming, making her feel smaller than ever. Yet she refused to look away. You seek to prove your worth, the Arbiter intoned, its voice reverberating through the room. Do you believe you deserve salvation? Elena swallowed hard, gathering her courage. I don't believe in deserving, she replied. I believe in striving. We are flawed, yes, but we are also capable of greatness. You see us as a threat, but I see us as survivors. We fight, we adapt, and we grow. That's what makes us human. The Arbiter studied her intently, its expression unreadable. For a moment, silence stretched endlessly. Then, slowly, it nodded. You have demonstrated willpower. Your kind may yet earn redemption. With those words, the trial ended. Elena returned to Earth, greeted as a hero. Humanity had survived, for now. But the road ahead remained uncertain, fraught with challenges yet unseen. One thing was clear. Humanity's fight for survival was far from over. Elena Morales stepped off the alien ship and into the blinding sunlight, her legs trembling but her resolve unshaken. Behind her, the massive vessel shimmered faintly before ascending back into the sky, leaving humanity with a fragile lifeline. The Arbiters had acknowledged humanity's efforts in the trials, granting them a reprieve. But it was clear that this wasn't an act of mercy. It was a test of endurance, a gauntlet they had barely begun to run. As news spread of Elena's success, cheers erupted across the globe. From New York to Tokyo, from Delhi to Johannesburg, people poured into the streets celebrating what felt like a miracle. For the first time since the arrival of the alien fleet, hope began to replace fear. But amidst the celebrations, Elena couldn't shake the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. She had stared into the cold eyes of beings who viewed humanity as insignificant pests, and somehow she had convinced them to give Earth another chance. Yet deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. The Arbiters hadn't left. Their ship still hovered silently in orbit, watching, waiting. They weren't done judging humanity, and if humanity failed whatever challenges lay ahead, there would be no second chances. The aftermath. Back at the Global Defense Initiative, GDI headquarters, the mood was a mix of relief and tension. While the world celebrated outside, leaders and scientists gathered in dimly lit conference rooms, poring over data and strategizing for what might come next. General Marcus Hale paced the room, his jaw clenched tight. He hadn't trusted Elena's approach from the start, and now he seemed more skeptical than ever. This isn't over, Hale growled, slamming his fist on the table. They gave us a pat on the head and sent us back to our sandbox. That doesn't mean we're safe. Elena turned to face him, her expression calm but firm. It means we've earned more time, she said. Time to prepare, to adapt, and to prove ourselves further. We can't afford to waste it fighting among ourselves. Hale snorted but didn't argue. Instead, he crossed his arms and leaned against the wall, his piercing gaze fixed on Elena. Despite their differences, even he had to admit that her courage and quick thinking had saved humanity. For now. Meanwhile, teams of engineers, mathematicians, and linguists worked around the clock to analyze every detail of the encounters with the Arbiters. Scientists dissected fragments of the alien language, searching for hidden meanings or weaknesses. Hackers attempted to infiltrate the alien fleet's communication systems, hoping to gain insights into their technology. Every piece of information was meticulously recorded and shared globally through the GDI network. But while the scientific community focused on preparation, ordinary citizens grappled with the emotional toll of living under constant threat. Families clung to each other, cherishing moments they once took for granted. Communities came together, organizing events to lift spirits and remind everyone of the resilience that defined humanity. Art flourished. Paintings, songs, and poems captured both the terror and triumph of facing the unknown. Even in the darkest times, creativity became a beacon of light. A new challenge. Days turned into weeks, and though the alien fleet remained ominously silent, humanity continued to brace itself for the inevitable. Then, without warning, the Arbiters issued a new challenge, one unlike anything they had faced before. This time, the trial required not physical prowess or intellectual brilliance, but pure willpower. Each nation was instructed to select a representative, to compete in a mental duel against one of the Arbiters. The stakes were higher than ever. Failure meant immediate annihilation for the participants' entire country. Success offered a chance to move closer to proving humanity's worth. Countries scrambled to choose their champions. Some opted for soldiers, believing strength and discipline would prevail. Others selected philosophers, hoping wisdom and logic could outwit the Arbiters. In the end, Elena found herself once again thrust into the spotlight, not because she sought the role, but because no one else embodied humanity's spirit quite like her. Standing before the delegation, Elena hesitated. "I'm not sure I'm the right person for this," she admitted. "I don't have superhuman abilities or centuries of experience. I'm just me." "That's exactly why you're perfect," replied Dr. Mei Lin, the mathematician who had helped solve the second trial. "You're human, flawed, scared, but determined. If anyone can show the Arbiters what makes us special, it's you." With a heavy heart, Elena accepted the challenge. As preparations began, she trained relentlessly, meditating to strengthen her focus and consulting psychologists to build mental resilience. She studied recordings of previous interactions with the Arbiters, searching for patterns or weaknesses. Yet nothing could fully prepare her for what awaited. The duel. The day of the trial arrived, and Elena was transported to a neutral location, a barren desert chosen by the Arbiters. The air crackled with energy as one of their massive ships descended, casting a shadow over the landscape. When the Arbiter commander emerged, its towering form radiated an aura of invincibility. Its glowing visor locked onto Elena, and for a moment she felt as though her very soul was being scrutinized. "You stand before me as a representative of your species," the Arbiter intoned, its voice resonating directly in her mind. "Prove to me that your kind is worthy of survival." Elena took a deep breath, steadying herself. She knew this wasn't about winning or losing. It was about showing the Arbiters who humanity truly was. Drawing on every ounce of courage, she met the being's gaze and spoke. "You call yourselves gods," she began, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "But you're wrong. You're just another race, arrogant enough to think you have the right to decide who lives and dies. Yes, we're flawed. We make mistakes. We hurt each other and our planet. But we also create beauty, love, and hope. We dream of better futures and fight to make them real. That's what defines us, not perfection, but persistence." The Arbiter tilted its head slightly as if intrigued. "Your words carry passion," it said, "but passion alone cannot sustain existence." "Then let me show you," Elena replied. "Let me show you what it means to never give up." What followed was a battle unlike any other, a clash of minds rather than weapons. The Arbiter projected images into Elena's consciousness, forcing her to confront her deepest fears and insecurities. She saw visions of failure, loss, and despair, moments where she doubted herself and questioned whether humanity deserved salvation. But she refused to look away. With every image, she countered with memories of triumph, connection, and resilience. She remembered the countless acts of kindness she'd witnessed during the crisis, the volunteers risking their lives to help. Others, the strangers uniting to protect their communities. Hours passed, though time seemed irrelevant in the surreal landscape of her mind. Sweat dripped down Elena's face and her body trembled with exhaustion, but she held firm. Finally, the Arbiter withdrew its assault, leaving her gasping for air. "You are unexpected," it said, its tone softer than before. "Perhaps your kind possesses qualities we did not anticipate." Elena collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She didn't know if she had won or lost, but she had given everything she had. Slowly, she looked up at the Arbiter and whispered, "We're still here and we're not going anywhere." Radier, a fragile victory. The Arbiter commander regarded her silently for a moment before turning and ascending back into its ship. As the vessel disappeared into the sky, Elena sat alone in the desert, overwhelmed by the enormity of what had just happened. She didn't know if the Arbiters would return or what challenges still lay ahead. But one thing was certain: humanity had proven that it wouldn't go quietly into the night. News of her victory spread quickly, reigniting hope around the world. People rallied behind her, inspired by her bravery and determination. Yet Elena knew the fight wasn't over. The Arbiter's judgment hung precariously in the balance, and humanity's survival depended on continuing to prove its worth. As she boarded a helicopter to return home, Elena gazed out at the horizon, her thoughts swirling. Humanity had faced gods or beings who claimed to be gods and refused to bow. They had shown that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they would fight for their place in the universe. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, Elena believed that as long as humanity stood united, they could overcome anything, even the arbiters of existence. The sun rose over a world that had changed forever. Elena Morales stood on the balcony of her apartment, staring at the alien fleet still hovering silently in orbit. The sight filled her with both awe and unease. Humanity had survived, for now, but the shadow of uncertainty loomed large. The arbiters hadn't left. They were watching, waiting, judging. And though Elena had faced them head-on, proving humanity's resilience, she knew this reprieve was fragile. One misstep, one failure to live up to their impossible standards, and Earth would be erased without hesitation. But something remarkable had happened during those harrowing weeks. Humanity, fractured and divided for so long, had found a way to unite. Nations once locked in conflict worked side by side. Scientists shared discoveries openly. Artists painted murals celebrating unity, while musicians composed songs about hope and defiance. Even ordinary citizens, who might never have thought themselves capable of heroism, stepped forward to help in ways big and small. It was as if the threat from above had forced humanity to confront its own flaws, and in doing so, it had begun to heal. A new world order. In the aftermath of the trials, the Global Defense Initiative, GDI, evolved into something more than just a coalition of nations. It became a symbol of humanity's determination to survive and thrive. Under Elena's guidance, the GDI shifted its focus from defense to progress. Engineers collaborated with environmentalists to develop sustainable technologies. Hackers who once worked in isolation joined forces to create global cybersecurity networks. Farmers experimented with innovative methods to combat food shortages. Every effort, no matter how small, contributed to a collective vision of a better future. Elena herself became an icon, not just for her bravery but for her unwavering belief in humanity's potential. She traveled the world, speaking to crowds of thousands, urging people not to squander the second chance they'd been given. "We've proven we can adapt," she told them during one speech in Geneva. "Now let's prove we can evolve. Let's show the arbiters, and ourselves, that we're more than our mistakes." Her words resonated deeply. People began to see the crisis not just as a threat but as an opportunity. Communities came together to rebuild ecosystems destroyed by decades of neglect. Schools introduced new curriculums focused on cooperation, empathy, and innovation. Governments implemented policies aimed at reducing inequality and preserving the planet. For the first time in history, humanity seemed truly united, not by fear, but by purpose. The final test. Yet despite these strides, the arbiters remained a constant presence, their ships casting long shadows across Earth. Weeks turned into months, and though they issued no further challenges, their silence was deafening. Were they satisfied? Or were they simply biding their time before delivering their final verdict? Then, one fateful morning, the skies darkened as the largest alien vessel descended closer to Earth than ever before. Panic surged through cities worldwide as people braced for the worst. Emergency broadcasts urged calm, but even the most optimistic couldn't ignore the possibility that this was the end. Elena was summoned to meet the Arbiter Commander once again. This time there would be no trial, no test of intellect or willpower. The being wanted answers, and it wanted them now. Standing before the towering figure aboard its ship, Elena felt a mix of dread and resolve. "You've observed us," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "You've seen what we're capable of. What more do you want?" The Arbiter tilted its head, studying her with glowing eyes. "Your kind has shown flashes of potential," it replied. "But potential is meaningless without action. Tell me, human, why should your species be allowed to endure?" Elena hesitated, searching for the right words. Then slowly, she began to speak. Not as a scientist or a diplomat, but as a person who loved her home and everything it represented. "Because we're still learning," she said. "Yes, we've made mistakes. We've hurt each other, exploited our resources, and ignored the consequences of our actions. But we're trying to change. Look at what we've done since you arrived. Look at how far we've come." She gestured toward Earth, visible through the ship's transparent walls. "You see destruction, but I see beauty. Beauty in our diversity, in our creativity, in our capacity to dream. We're flawed, yes, but that's what makes us unique. That's what drives us to grow, to improve, to reach for the stars. If you take that away, you're not just erasing a species, you're extinguishing a spark that could light up the universe." The Arbiter listened in silence, its expression unreadable. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, it spoke. "Your words carry weight," it said. "Perhaps your kind deserves another chance. But remember this. Judgment is ongoing. Should you falter, we will return." With that, the Arbiter turned and ascended back into its ship. Moments later, the fleet vanished into the depths of space, leaving behind only echoes of their presence. A legacy of hope. As news of the Arbiter's departure spread, celebrations erupted across the globe. Fireworks lit up the night sky and streets filled with people dancing, singing, and embracing strangers. Humanity had survived the ultimate test, and in doing so, it had discovered a strength few believed possible. But Elena didn't join the festivities. Instead, she returned to her work knowing the real challenge lay ahead. The Arbiter's warning lingered in her mind. Judgment was ongoing. Humanity couldn't afford to slip back into old habits. They had to keep pushing forward, striving to become better versions of themselves. In the years that followed, Earth transformed in ways no one could have predicted. Advances in technology spurred by the encounter revolutionized industries, from clean energy to medicine. Global unity fostered unprecedented levels of peace and collaboration. Education systems emphasized critical thinking and compassion, ensuring future generations inherited a brighter legacy. Elena continued to play a key role in shaping this new era. Though hailed as a hero, she remained humble, always reminding others that humanity's survival wasn't due to any single individual, it was a collective triumph. "We did this together," she often said, "and if we stay united, there's nothing we can't achieve." Looking to the stars. Decades passed and memories of the Arbiters faded into legend. Children grew up hearing stories of the day humanity stared down gods and refused to back down. Monuments were erected in honor of those who had sacrificed everything to protect Earth. Yet even as life moved on, the lessons learned during that dark chapter endured. One evening, long after the crisis had ended, Elena stood atop a hill overlooking a bustling city. The skyline glimmered with lights, powered by renewable energy, and drones zipped silently overhead, delivering goods and monitoring air quality. In the distance, a rocket launched into space, carrying humanity's latest mission to explore the cosmos. Tears welled up in Elena's eyes as she watched the fiery trail disappear into the heavens. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger, not because they were perfect, but because they refused to give up. They had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage, ingenuity, and unity could overcome anything. As she gazed upward, Elena whispered softly, almost to herself, "We're still here, and we're just getting started." Far above, among the stars, perhaps the Arbiters watched too, curious to see whether humanity would continue to rise, or whether their judgment would eventually return. But for now, Earth belonged to its people. A resilient, flawed, beautiful species determined to carve its own destiny in the vastness of the universe.